Welcome to episode 82 of Drew's Sports Crew here on this Monday morning, not Sunday night. Myself, Drew Skyberg, bringing you all the news in the sports world, at least where we always look here. The high school level in the Eastern Wisconsin Conference. We'll be checking out football, standing scores, and stat updates as always. And then also we're going to be heading right to Milwaukee. We'll be talking about the Brewers, how they've been performing not well. Again, looks like their season will be coming to an end here as soon as tonight could be the case. We'll also be talking about the Green Bay Packers, how they have an interesting win yesterday. I'll leave it at that. It was, a frustrating win, I'd say. I mean, they were heavy favorites, and they get the job done barely. I mean, we almost were looking at a tie if that field goal was missed. But, yeah, I mean, that was kind of the sports week update there, kind of the events we'll be talking about here. So let's go into some announcements here before we get started on episode 82. Of course, going through the live stream days, right? We'll be live 3 times today. This is episode 1 out of 3 that you could catch today. And episode 2 will be live here at noon. We'll be having on College Athlete Spotlight. We'll be having on Maya, who is a Division I tennis player from DePaul University. She'll be joining myself here on the podcast, like I said, around noon. So go check that out then at that time. And then later tonight, of course, Drew's Baseball Crew. The finale will be coming your way. The last episode of Drew's Baseball Crew. Sad to say, yeah. Baseball season here, winding down here, coming to an end. We probably will not be bringing you postseason, but we'll be having basketball stuff soon. Brewers season recap will be coming your way on a Tuesday. Some basketball previews. Expect Jared Valesky join me on that. Also, hopefully, we might see Michael Waterloo, right? Guy from The Athletic who is, a proud guest of the show. Hopefully, we can bring him back for another episode. But otherwise, that is the main live stream day announcement. Wednesday, Journey to Million. As always, thinking around 6 o'clock. Kind of the usual. Bring your fantasy football questions, your start sit questions, where we were able to help out a lot of individuals last week, and hopefully we can do the same this week. And let's go through some more announcements. Of course, social media at Drew Sports Crew is where you will find us. Instagram and Twitter and TikTok. I got to keep shouting out that TikTok. Also, at Drew Sports Crew on Twitch. Keep that in mind. We are live on Twitch as well now. Twitch and YouTube both. So check us out on both platforms. Follow us on Twitch if you would please. If you have Twitch, why not? Right? Do whatever you please. But otherwise, Fantasia, right? Check that out. I mean, we've been talking about that. They have side challenges now, right? You can now do challenges where you basically do a side wager against who you're playing. I mean, this is 2022, and we're seeing 2022 features all over the place on Fantasia. Again, their layout is fantastic. Go check them out for DFS, or you can still start season-long fantasy, I'm pretty sure, on there. If you want to just want to wait a few weeks, see, now some of your questions were answered, right, in fantasy football. So maybe you can use that knowledge and draft right now. Why not? But those are kind of the main things going on in the world of Fantasia, right? Thrive. If you want to start your journey to million today, use code J2M. That link is down below. But otherwise, let's get now into it here on the podcast. You know the drill. We got to go to the Eastern Wisconsin Conference as we saw ourselves some wild games. I did mention last week, so I was like, there's going to be a lot of blowouts this week. There was. And my game of the week, I believe I did choose Kiel KLC as game number 1. Otherwise, it was game number 2 if I did not. And we'll start, though. Yeah, we'll start with what I believe I called the game of the week. In Kiel and KLC, the Raiders, they get the job done. And this seemed like a classic KLC game in terms of they put up a lot of points. They didn't win this game, unfortunately, but if you're a KLC fan, unfortunately, right? But they put up a lot of points, including 22 points in the fourth quarter. Kiel 56, KLC, the Blue Bombers 42. So Kiel wins by 14 points in the ball game. Kiel scores 42 points in the first half. It was 42-12 at half. KLC made it a game by scoring 32. Kiel's 14 in the second half. Look, this was classic KLC volume. When I say that, Max Greenbach threw the ball 56 times. That sounds like Kiel Raiders football. Or not Kiel Raiders, KLC Blue Bomber football. My apologies. 6 passing touchdowns for Breitenbach to 3 interceptions. Breitenbach on the ground, I see 10 attempts for negative 36 yards. I'm going to believe that was a lot of sacks taken there. Also, we had John Kukuzi, 3 for 26. Then Noah Vilwalk, 17 for 42. A lot of plays ran in this game. Wow. Otherwise, let's go to some Kiel stuff. So you saw, I said 56 times for Breitenbach passing the ball, right? Connor Faust, 6 times in the ball game, 2 passing touchdowns, 3 for 6. 2 of those completions were touchdowns. Was for Faust. What a wild game here. Again, in Kohler for both squads. Rushing though, like this is the story. Bryce Giuxen of the Kiel Raiders, 16 of 180 with a rushing touchdown. Connor Benverzi, 3 for 37. Connor Faust, 8 for negative 11 with a rushing touchdown. And then Colin Gossi, 3 for 74, 2 rushing touchdowns for him. On the receiving end, Harrison Zorn had 2 of Connor Faust's 3 completions with 2 receiving touchdowns for him. Trey Bartz had the other 1 for 19 there. Let's go to KLC. So we believe this is a record. Again, this is all WSN. They were talking, and Travis Wilson believes this is a record 24 receptions for Noah Heinen. Yes, you heard that right. 24. We talked about how dominant Noah Heinen is on this podcast from start to so far this year. I mean, it's been the story for KLC, the Blue Bombers. He's been arguably the best weapon in the EWC on the receiving side. So 24 of 336, 2 touchdowns, 24 receptions. That is a record. I believe that passes Casey Verhagen of then the Blue Bombers last year. I don't know if it was last year when it happened, but I believe he had like 23. So that's insane. But look, I mean, record-breaking stats in the EWC. What's new here? And Noah Heinen, again, 24 of the 35 receptions. Jalen Paul was 5 of the other 35, and he had 3 touchdowns. And Jake Thomas, 4 for 19 there. So it's crazy. Jalen Paul had 3 receiving touchdowns. And Noah Heinen had 2 receiving touchdowns with 24 receptions. So he was like down the field. I mean, they were going to Heinen the whole game. And why not? I wonder how many times he was targeted, though, out of those 56 passing attempts. I wish we did have targets. Don't have those down here as a stat, however. But Kiel's defense, they had some good numbers too, which you might be surprised. They gave up 42 points. Well, they had a forced fumble. They had 3 interceptions, 2 of them going to Braden April, and then the other one going to Ben Kienbaum. And then they also had 4 sacks. So you're looking at this. They give up 42 points, but yet they have some great defensive numbers. And yeah, that was the story, though. Kiel Raiders, they survive. I guess they get the job done, though. And they move then to 3-2 in conference, 3-4 overall was that story. Let's go through these other games. These other 3 were unfortunately blowouts. Let's go to Valders as Valders celebrated homecoming against the Two Rivers Raiders. What, a homecoming matchup. Unfortunate there for the Vikings, but Two Rivers, yeah, they get the job done. They were up 21-0 at half. They scored 27 in the second half to win 48-0. The story, it was Chase Mathias and Justin Klinkner, shocker. But Klinkner this time only passed 12 times, 10 for 12, 2 touchdowns for him. No stats on Valders, unfortunately, but we mentioned that balanced receiving core. Shocker, that's what we saw here again. Xander Pop, 4 for 64. Austin Phillips, 3 for 72 with a touchdown. Chase Mathias, 2 for 57 with a touchdown. Damian Gretz, 1 for 19. Elijah Mott, 1 for 31. Very balanced, of course, for the Raiders. Rushing was pretty balanced, but Chase Mathias, 12 for 130, averaging 10.8 yards an attempt, 3 touchdowns for him on the ground. Max Mathias, 2 for 11 with a touchdown as well. Otherwise, it was the defense. 3 forced fumbles for the Two Rivers Raiders will get you that job done. Chase Mathias had 2 of them. There for them. So all around, just making a difference in the game is Mathias. Interception then for Oren Gauger as well. So Two Rivers, they continue their dominant stretch. You know how many points they've allowed this year? They've allowed 21 points this year. Yes, that is insane. They go 7-0. I mean, they're 5-0, 7-0 overall. They've scored 235 to 220, or hold on, 256 they've scored to 21 points allowed. That gives them a plus minus of 235. Yes, I said that right. Let's go to another game, Brilliant and Chilton. So this game was a game at half. It just got out of hand in the second half. Not sure what will happen there for the Brilliant Lions, but Chilton, they get the job done. I believe it was their homecoming as well. 50-6 was that final there. It was 14-6 at half. And then Chilton scores 36 unanswered in the second half. That will get them the job done there at Chilton High School. And it was a wild game. It was the classic Chilton offense. I don't know what else to tell you. It was where Max Miller's going to pass 5 to 10 times, maybe a little less, this time 4, but he's going to throw a passing touchdown. He might throw 2, and we saw that in this game. It was Ryan Pierquette, 2 for 22 with a passing or receiving touchdown from Miller. Miller was 2 for 4 with a touchdown, like I said. But it's this rushing attack. It's Jared Gale leading the way, and then you're going to have Max Miller thrown in there, Zach Hallbach also, and it was Jared Gale, 16 of 129 with a touchdown. And then it was Miller, 13-75 with 3 rushing touchdowns. Hallbach, 7 for 52 with a touchdown. Then you had Slight Nolan, 3 for 44 with a touchdown. You had Aaron Meyer, 4 for 66. Warren Wilcox, 2 for 22. Very balanced rushing attack for the Chilton Tigers. It's something, you see that with the Brilliant. You've seen that with Brilliant for the longest time. Saw in this game, but Chilton was really able to stop the run. Jane Bastion, they're usually leading rusher, 11 for 37 with a touchdown for him. Only 3.4 yards an attempt. Chase Thibodeau, 11 for 40, 3.6 an attempt for him. Otherwise, the rest of the rushing attack was held in check. 42 of 118 was the total, averaging 2.8 yards an attempt for the Brilliant Lions. Joe Shimmick was 5 for 7, 2 interceptions for him to 0 touchdowns. On the defensive side, it was for those 2 interceptions. It was Zach Hallbach of the Tigers who got both of them. No sacks for the Brilliant Lions, unfortunately. And 1 sack there for Damian Bingman of Chilton. Then, that was kind of the game here. Again, it was 50-6 was the final. Chilton, they moved to 5-0 as well in conference and 5-2 overall. So it's like we said last week, I believe it's battle of conference. It's going to be Chilton and TR, it looks like, but we got some more games here to talk about. I guess one more, I should say, Roncalli and New Holstein. So this game, 49-7 was the final. And New Holstein got the job done. They were up 49-0 end of 3. Roncalli gets a touchdown in the 4th to get a 49-7 final. So this game, let's go through it. A lot of running. This is exactly 2 really run-heavy offenses. You're going to see a lot of running. But I guess Roncalli passing 24 times for me was a surprise, but New Holstein really is a surprise. 3 for 7 was Matt Steer, only 7 passing attempts. That's the big surprise for me. Or not really, but the rushing attack, again, this is what they like to do. Mason Butin and Luke Graff, they did exactly what they wanted to do. Graff, 8 for 135, 4 touchdowns for him. Mason Butin, 12 for 115, 1 touchdown for him. And then Drew Reimer there on for Roncalli was 9 for 94, and then Braden Reimer was 9 for 51. With Drew Reimer, he had the rushing touchdown there for the Roncalli Jets. But receiving wise, it was Landon Halupny was 4 for 20. I guess the passing wise, I should say, with 3 interceptions there for the Jets. But on the receiving side, it was Drew Reimer with a 48-yard reception, Owen Stockton with a 13-yarder, Jensen Wenkamp with a 13-yarder as well. Receiving-wise, Luke Graff was 1 for 17. Butin was 1 for 7. And then Mason Schmitz, 1 for 9. So really the story here, I guess, let's go through some interceptions. I'm seeing right now that New Holstein had 4 interceptions they got. It says 3 only was thrown by Roncalli, but they have 4 somehow. Not sure how that works, but I'm going to say they had 3. So Luke Graff, Eric Burns, Sean Floyd each had the 3 interceptions for the Huskies. And that was kind of the game here. A lot of running, and that's what New Holstein did. They got a lot of running touchdowns. And if you're going through it, that won them the game here. That rushing offense, and as we've seen, the EWC has been a run-heavy offense for a lot of years now. KLC kind of changed it up, these past few years ever since they joined the conference. And then, of course, Two Rivers always had. But then you see the other squads. It's been very run heavy, and that I think that's going to be a theme we're going to see stick here in the EWC. But with that, we saw New Holstein move to 2-3 in conference, 3-4 overall. Roncalli falls to 0-5 in conference, 1-6 overall. Let's go through the standings update here in the Eastern Wisconsin Conference. So Chilton and Two Rivers are both 5-0 atop the EWC. However, Two Rivers is 7-0 overall, with Chilton being 5-2 overall. Kiel is in that lone 3 spot. They are 3-2 in conference, 3-4 overall. Then we have that 2-3 group that, I mean, we talked about this at the start of the year. My tiers exactly forming here. I said, right, Two Rivers, and I said Chilton at 2, like a step below. And then I said Kiel below them. And we're seeing that in the top 3. And then we see that group I was hesitant of ranking because I'm like, we don't know how this is going to turn out. It's Brilliant, KLC, New Holstein, all 2-3. And how that works then is Brilliant's 2-5 overall, KLC's 2-5 overall, then New Holstein's 2-3 overall. We're gonna have a lot of answers, or a lot of questions answered with KLC and Brilliant squaring off on Friday. I'll talk about that game, of course, in my game previews. But that's kind of where we're at right now with those standings. Valdor's 1-4 then, and they're 2-5 overall, and then Roncalli 0-5 in conference, 1-6 overall. That's kind of the standings report here. Looking through it, let's go through some stats now. Justin Klinkner still leads the way. It's getting close, though, with Max Greenbach's big game in passing yards. 1,656 is Klinkner. He's leading the way, but like I said, it's getting close. 1,194. I guess not too close, but it's getting closer, maybe I should say, for Max Greenbach. Then he is in second. And then, so it's really like a two-way race, but Klinkner is still, I'd say, with, 2 games left, still ahead enough where it shouldn't matter. So I think Klinkner's got the passing yard crown done, but who knows? Greenbach could have some big games. And then we could see also Tours run the ball a lot, as they totally can do. They're totally capable of doing that. Max Miller at 3 with 622 passing yards. Rushing yard leader. So with Reimer only having 51 yards, I believe, last week, this race is getting close. Reimer, 932 there, and still ahead. Chase Mathias at 785. Jared Gallo of Chilton, then 727. So that race we could see heat up. Here's the race that I think might be over with Noah Heinen dominating, right, with that big 24 reception game. That's going to give you a nice advantage, and 765 is the number for Heinen in receiving yards. Xander Pop at 398. Elijah Mott then at 382. So goes KLC Blue Bomber, and then we have Two Rivers Raiders. Yeah, try to say that 3 times fast. That is kind of how the stats look. And let's go then to the game previews for next week. I will be giving you my game of the week as always. Chilton and Roncalli square off. Chilton travels to Ron Rubik Field to face the Roncalli Jets. The Blue Bombers, they go to Brilliant, which should be a great game based on record. This will really determine that tier list, as we always talk about the standings, if you want to word it like that. New Holstein, they got to go to Two Rivers, face a tough Raiders squad. Then Valdors, they travel to Kiel. So you might be wondering, how are these games going to turn out? I think the best way to go about this, I think go to Brilliant, watch KLC and Brilliant. That's going to be your best game, I think, by far. That will be my game of the week, KLC and Brilliant, again at Brilliant. So check that one out. Then these other ones, I'm not sure how they're going to go. It looks like they could be lopsided games, at least based on standings and such. It looks like all the other 3 will probably turn out like that, but let's see how these teams can hang in, right? If let's say maybe Valdors gives Kiel, they beat Kiel last year. Why not see what they can do this year? Maybe make that a good game, potentially even win that game. Look for that. Also, maybe we can see New Holstein and Chilton, or we can see maybe them keep that game close, see how those games turn out. But again, like I said, you can never rule a school out, right? It's Friday Night Lights. It's the Eastern Wisconsin Conference. We always say it's a gauntlet, and rightfully so, right? We have a lot of 2-3, a lot of 3-2 here in the conference. So that tells me, some good competition. So just want to keep that in mind, but just giving you at least my predictions, right? Game of the week, again, KLC and Brilliant. And that's going to wrap it up here for the EWC talk. As always, thank you to WSN with Sports. Their link is down below. I appreciate, again, their content and keeping us updated with stats, standings, and schedule. So again, thank you, withsports.net. Let's go now to the world of baseball. I sound a little unenthusiastic because I am, quite frankly. Terrible week for the Milwaukee Brewers. Really, it just it's been a disaster, I guess is how I would sum it up. It feels like, the Cubs give you a gift. They sweep the Phillies. I mean, they do you an absolute favor. And then you lose to the Marlins 3 out of 4. And their Marlins are posting on their Twitter, thank you, or like saying that they're supporting their division, helping out the Phillies. And I'm like, ugh, it's just terrible to see. So let's just go through the standings from last week. So for week 24, Drew said they're going 4-2. They went 2-4. They said no playoffs. Not yet, but they're basically saying no playoffs is how it's looking for me. But going through this past week, how it went down, it didn't go down pretty. They lose on Tuesday to the Cardinals 2-6. I was at that game. Yikes, I know. Then they win 5-1. They lose 2-4. They lose they win 1-0 on Friday. Much needed win against Sandy Alcantara. And then on Saturday, they blow the game. They lose 3-4. And then on Sunday, they blow the game. They lose 3-4. I say blow the game on Sunday. It was extra innings, but it was disaster. Very upsetting. Fans were booing. I was at Tuesday's and Sunday's game. So, again, terrible. They go, like I said, actual 2-4. And if they would have won on Saturday, not blowing that game, it would have been, wow, competitive as they split a doubleheader on Saturday. The Phillies, that is, did. So, really just, threw everything for a loop. And now, basically, they need the Phillies to go 0-3. And the Brewers need to go 3-0. That's how you make the playoffs. So, Phillies win tonight. It's over. That's simple. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to see what happens. I think basically my takeaway is the following. If they don't sweep the Diamondbacks here, I have them going 3-0. Shocker. But if they don't sweep the Diamondbacks here, if they lose tonight, I mean, it's over. Phillies win tonight, it's over. But I think we're going to see, this isn't even me overreacting. I think we're going to see changes in potentially management. I think, not saying Craig Counsell specifically, but I think there'll be some changes. I could totally see David Stearns moving to a different ball club. There's always been talks with him in the Mets. Not saying it's the Mets specifically, but I could see him moving on. Could see it happen. I could also see potential new ownership. This is something I've talked about even on this very podcast. I've said there is a serious potential that I think Mark Anastasio might start exploring offers for the team. And I say that it's not me saying he doesn't care about the team, but we've seen moves that have been more business friendly, owner friendly than team friendly in terms of, not putting your full investment in the team, being still the priority owner and owning a large stake in the team. You would expect more care, more overall, team, just supporting the team, right? And what we've seen him explore stakes, right? Purchasing a stake in a European Premier League team for soccer. We've seen him buy very expensive sports cards, but again, that's fine. I mean, it's his money, but the stake in another sports team really shows me you're not fully invested in this sports franchise. That's what it tells me at the end of the day. I believe it was over $10 million already just thrown at a team. Just thinking of it like this, and I'm not saying it's not exactly like this, but what could that $10 million gone for, right? I mean, that's how much McCutchen was signed for. So just saying, I mean, that could be a whole nother player. I mean, that could be a third baseman. That could have been a multiple relief pitchers. That could have been, just think about what the Brewers' weaknesses have been. That could have been a center fielder who could hit, right? I'm not, now Gary Mitchell's been doing well, but it's really crazy to think about what it could have been. And yeah, this could be a very upsetting season. One of the most upsetting seasons in recent memory. 2014. I'm still probably tops it. Don't want to bring that one up, but certainly a season to forget for the Milwaukee Brewers. A lot of questions need to be answered in the offseason, but I guess I don't even want to talk about this stuff anymore. We'll do a Brewer season recap if it all comes down. I might need to wait a week to talk or just to recoup from what could happen tonight is how I'll word it. Let's talk, I want to briefly mention, right, the Paul Chris firing. I did actually, and I don't want to toot my own horn this much, but I was talking with some friends. I'm like, I seriously think there's a chance Paul Chris gets fired on Monday. And I said this yesterday morning. I'm like, looking through it, Wisconsin holds themselves to high standards, and it's about really, you don't lose to Illinois by the amount they lost them at home. in a conference, like, right, conference game. You don't lose to Illinois that much. It's just Wisconsin. It's just tradition, I guess I should say, over these past 20 years, right? 21st century, it seems like that's been Badger football. And when that happened, I mean, I was like, yeah, he's probably going to be gone. And sure enough, he was gone. Um, you knew that was something like it just felt like Wisconsin football wasn't held the same respect to the same standard it's been held to over the past, right? Like I said, the past century. So, all right, when I say that, I'm talking about 21st century, of course, but Jim Leonard's the interim head coach. I think he's going to do a good job. He came here, I guess, really for that role. I really think I think he's going to do a great job. So I'm not saying this season's just going to boom turn around like that. I don't think it does, like exactly like that. I still think this team's right. It's a bowl team. They're going to get a bowl game. But I really think you need to just in this, right? I think transfer portal needs to be huge. Quarterback situation next off season, I really think you need to explore other options than Graham Mertz. I'm at that point. I've been at that point since last year. So that's kind of why you don't hear me talk about Badger football a lot. Again, being Marquette basketball fan, you might not hear me talk about it because of that, but it's really because, the product on the field right now, it hasn't been that electric, football. That's Wisconsin style football. Don't want to say since JT's been there, but it's awfully close. I think I'll say since 2019, I think is when it's really fallen off. So that's where I'd go. But look, little bleep thing or brief thing, not bleep thing, but a brief thing here about Badger football here before we talk about Green Bay Packer football. Yeah, we're going to the National Football League now. What a sloppy game in Green Bay. Yeah, it sounds like I'm a complainer today, but I mean, I gotta report about how it went, right? It was sloppy. It was bad. I mean, Packers get the job done 27-24. Bailey Zappi, however you want to say his last name. I've heard it two different ways now. It's he ends up being the quarterback as Hoyer exits due to an injury because he looked pretty good. I mean, 10 for 15, 99 yards to a touchdown. Look, I'll say it. Matt LaFleur, he got outcoached today. I mean, this might be like, wow, you're going to blame the coach for this game being so close, but I really think he got outcoached today. The main play I looked at was the Romeo Doubs thing he challenged. Like, that was pure emotion. I know he said it was emotion, but you cannot have, you can't coach. I mean, you can coach with emotion, of course, but when emotion takes over, rationale and just overall like the thought process, I mean, that's not winning football. Let's be honest. But and he was even told, I believe, not to challenge the play. He still went with it. I was scratching my head. I'm like, all right, let's waste our challenge now so we don't get one later. But ended up not costing them. But I mean, no, that is losing football when you make a decision like that. That's just how it is. But you still have to respect how Belichick was able to utilize Zapp in this game. Right? Again, I mentioned a 10 for 15 with a passing touchdown. Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson looked effective too. I mean, both averaged 4.7 for Stevenson, 4.8 for Harris. Very effective there. Then balanced receiving attack for both teams. Shocker, but let's go to Green Bay side. Rodgers threw a pick 6 in this game. Yeah, you heard me right. He threw on 21 of 35, 2 touchdowns, interception. Then for him, he didn't look the best, but he did Rodgers things at the end. He did enough to make, he did the Rodgers things to make a team win. So that's what happened there. A lot of volume here. A.J. Dillon outcarries Aaron Jones again. But Jones was a lot more efficient there, 16 of 110 compared to 17 of 73. And Dillon was that guy you put in at the end of the game. He's like a closer. He gets them right into field goal range. Boom, and then you kick it. You win it with, no time left on the clock. Anyways, it was receiving-wise, Allen Lazard. It was his game to take the lead role. 8 targets for him, 6 of 116. Romeo Doubs had 8 targets as well. He almost had 2 receiving touchdowns, not just 1. 5 for 47 for him. Randall Cobb, 3 for 42 there. And then Robert Tonyan, 2 for 22 with his first touchdown of the year. Had him in fantasy picks. Jared and Zach were laughing at me. I was like, it's Robert Tonyan touchdown week. Guess what happened? Otherwise, Watson made some little errors, but he had 1 reception. And it was really like a little pass. I don't even know what it was. It was like a jet sweep kind of thing where he just Rodgers just tossed him the ball. Not really a reception, but 1 for 3 for him with 8 yards. Otherwise, yeah, very balanced target share. I mean, not as balanced as we've seen, as two guys had 8 targets, and then it was 4, 4, 2, 2, or 3, 2, 2, 1. So kind of balanced, not really. More balanced, than other teams, but not as balanced compared to Packer standards. Maybe is the way to say it. Look, sacks. I mean, Rashawn Gary looks dominant still. 2 sacks for him, 1 tackle for loss. Dean Lowry with a half a sack, and then Preston Smith with that other half. That was the story for them. Otherwise, it was lone sack for them with Matthew Judon of the Patriots. That was that. But it was, it was a pretty good game if you're a football fan. A lot of action in terms of, you got 5 quarters basically, 4.5 quarters, I guess, however you want to word it. But that was good to see. But if you're a Packer fan, this was you come into the game 10.5-point favorites, I believe, and it might even be more. But to only win by 3, that shows again how well coached the Patriots are, how well they're going to play, regardless of who's starting at quarterback. That's just credit Bill Belichick and his squad. I mean, that's what you got to do when you can handle like this. But you also need to look internally as a team, look at some of the play calling, look at how Rodgers performed in terms of pick 6, but otherwise, just looking at how the receivers have, like, the rapport, I guess I'd say, with Rodgers. It's just some receivers just they look like they're off, and I again, Watson looks like that. He's just a step off with Rodgers right now. You can see that, and guess what? Training camp. Guess who really wasn't there? Watson, because of injury. So you can clearly tell that. And Dobbs was there all camp, and look at that. He gets 8 targets because of it, and of course Lazard as well. But I just think, like, defensively, I'm not too worried. This team really only gave up 17 points defensively in 4.5 quarters, if you're looking at it like that. So I'm not too worried about the defense, but there certainly were some breakdowns in the game as expected. But this game more goes back to the offense. Running, I wasn't too worried. Packers need to be more efficient passing the ball. I think this game is a game for Matt LaFleur to look back and some coaching mistakes also. The Packers, if you want to throw in that delay of game that should have been called, that was not. I mean, you could throw that in there, but that shouldn't have mattered. I mean, it should not matter against a team that's starting their 3rd-string rookie quarterback due to Hoyer getting that injury through one of the first drives of the game. But that's just my stance on it. Again, I think the Packers, they're 3-1, they're 2-1 at home, or 2-0 at home, sorry. And they will be losing their home game as they go to London. So they lose a home game against the Giants to go to London next week, 8:30 a.m., NFL Network. It'll be good. And Packers, I'm not worried about these next 2 games. 3 games. Giants, Jets, Commanders. You theoretically should be 6-1 before that game against Buffalo at Buffalo on Sunday night. That's at least where I think they should be. I would be shocked if they dropped one of these games to the Giants, Jets, or Commanders. But I could really see this squad, first 8 games going 6-2. And that's awesome. That is what you want. So that's kind of where I'll wrap it up here, Packer-wise and episode-wise. It was quite the game. By the way, tickets, if you want to go Packers-Giants, $429 is right now the price as what I'm seeing. So plus airfare, you got to keep that in mind, in hotel. Probably expensive trip to London, but that will wrap it up for myself, Drew Skyberg, here on this Monday morning afternoon. I'll be back here at noon, remember, with Maya of DePaul University. Right, we'll talk with her about, of course, tennis. That'll be a lot of fun. She's a former UW-Milwaukee student. She's a grad transfer now at DePaul. We'll talk about it on their episode 18 of the College Athlete Spotlight. But that's going to be it for myself, Drew Skyberg, here, signing off on this Monday morning. Thank you all for listening to another episode of Drew's Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.